He sold our car to fund his vacation with another woman, and he thought $500 would shut me up. I still remember the smell of that garage. Motor oil, cold concrete, the faint metallic tang of grinding metal that never really washes out of your hands. For 8 months, that garage was basically my second home. Derek and I had been best friends since middle school. The kind of friendship where you don't even have to explain yourself because the other person already gets it. So when he pulled a rusted out, gutted chassis into his garage last winter and said, "Let's build something insane," I didn't hesitate for a second. He had the space. I had the skills. That was the deal, unspoken, but understood the way things are between two people who trust each other completely. I want to be clear about something before I go further, because it matters for everything that happens later. This wasn't a hobby I dabbled in on weekends. I'd spent years learning engines, wiring, suspension geometry, the kind of knowledge that takes real time to build. Derek respected that. He used to joke that I had grease for blood. And over those 8 months, I proved it. I was the one under the hood at midnight chasing a wiring gremlin that made no sense. I was the one who researched, sourced, and installed the turbo setup, the engine internals, the ECU tuning, the suspension work. Nearly all of it came from my hands. And the money? That came from my hands, too. Derek was tight on cash most of that year, so when it came to actually paying for parts, I covered around 80% of it. We talked about it plenty of times, usually late at night, with grease still under our fingernails, dreaming about what the car would look like, finished. The agreement was simple, 50-50. Whatever we made when we sold it, or whatever fun we had if we kept it as a track toy, we were splitting it evenly. That's what best friends do. Because it was sitting in his garage and because dealing with paperwork and towing made more sense with a local address, we registered the car in his name. At the time, it felt like a formality, a piece of admin, something you don't even think twice about when you trust someone completely. That decision would come back to haunt me in a way I never saw coming. By early summer, the car was finished. And I mean finished. The kind of build where you step back and can't quite believe it came out of a stripped, lifeless shell. It sounded aggressive. It looked like something out of a magazine. Every hour of frustration, every late night, every dollar spent felt worth it. The second that engine roared to life for the first time. We were proud. We had every reason to be. Then one afternoon, everything changed with a single phone call. Derek called me, practically buzzing. He told me someone had made an offer on the car. A big one, more than either of us expected. My first instinct was pure excitement. I actually pictured the payout hitting my account, thinking about which parts I'd finally treat myself to. Maybe even start planning the next build. For a few seconds, life felt good. Then he said the words that flipped everything upside down. "I'm keeping it. All of it. Me and Jess are going to Bali." I remember going completely still, phone pressed against my ear, waiting for the punchline that never came. He wasn't joking. He explained it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Like, our 8 months of work, my money, my labor meant nothing compared to a beach vacation with his girlfriend. And then came the line that really lit the fuse. "It's my garage. My name's on the papers. Legally, it's my car. I'll toss you $500 for your trouble." $500. For context, the turbo setup alone cost more than that. The ECU tuning cost more than that. Add in the suspension components, the wiring harness, the fluids, the tools I'd worn down to nothing. We were talking thousands of dollars just in parts before you even factored in the hundreds of hours I'd spent bent over that engine bay. I sat there in silence, staring at nothing, trying to process how someone I trusted for over a decade could look at everything we built and reduce it to pocket change. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every conversation we'd ever had about the car, every text where we agreed on the split, every night we joked about what we'd do with the payout. None of it mattered to him anymore. And the worst part, legally, he wasn't entirely wrong. There was no contract, no signature, just text messages and a friendship I thought was solid enough not to need one. I felt cornered, betrayed, and more than a little bit stupid for trusting a handshake deal with no paper trail, but something in me refused to just accept the $500 and walk away quietly. The next morning, still furious but trying to think clearly, I started digging through my phone. Every text thread, every bank statement, every photo and video from the build. And there were a lot because I documented nearly the entire process, partly out of pride, partly out of habit. Screenshots of us talking about splitting the profit, receipts for the turbo kit, paid on my card, timestamps on videos of me elbow deep in wiring at 2 in the morning. It turns out heartbreak is a pretty good motivator for getting organized. I reached out to a few people I trusted for advice, laying out the whole situation. And that's when I learned something that changed my entire approach. You don't necessarily need a lawyer or a fortune to fight this kind of thing. Small claims court exists exactly for situations like mine. No expensive attorney, no drawn-out battle, just documentation, a filing, and a court date. That gave me something I hadn't felt since the phone call. Hope. But evidence alone wasn't going to be enough. I needed him to admit, in writing, that we'd agreed to split the money. Because right now, all I had were vague references to a deal. Nothing that clearly nailed down the terms in his own words. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to call him back and scream, even though every part of me wanted to. Instead, I was going to get calm, get calculated, and get everything on the record. That night, I sent one message. I kept my tone level, almost businesslike, even though my hands were shaking as I typed it. I told him I understood the car was registered in his name, but reminded him we'd spent 8 months building it together and had explicitly agreed to split the profit 50-50. I pointed out that offering me $500 after I funded the turbo setup and built the engine myself wasn't just unfair, it was insulting. He tried calling me twice. I let both calls go straight to voicemail. I needed everything in writing. A phone call could be denied later. A text message couldn't. When he realized I wasn't picking up, he texted back. And this is where he made his first real mistake. He told me plans had changed, that he needed the cash for the trip with Jess. Then, almost bragging, he added that, yeah, we'd said 50-50 at the start, but legally it was his car. He told me I should be grateful for the $500 since I didn't even have a contract, so there was nothing I could do about it. I stared at that message for a long moment. He had just confirmed, in his own words, that the 50-50 agreement existed. He thought admitting it made him untouchable. He had no idea he just handed me exactly what I needed. I saved the screenshot immediately, backed it up in 2 different places just to be safe. Then I sent my final message of the night. I laid it all out, the receipts for every part, the bank statements proving I paid for them, and now his own text confirming our 50-50 deal. I told him I was preparing an itemized bill for my labor hours, calculated at a fair market rate, and I gave him a deadline. If he didn't freeze the sale and give me my fair share, I was filing for small claims court first thing Monday morning. He never replied, but less than an hour later, his girlfriend blocked me on every platform we were connected on. That told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't just quiet, he was panicking. Over the next couple of days, I threw myself into preparation like it was a part-time job. I printed every text thread, I organized every receipt by date, I calculated labor hours for every single session I could remember. Late nights, bleeding breaks, afternoons untangling wiring harnesses, the entire engine swap that took an entire weekend by itself. When you actually add it up, hour by hour, the number is staggering. It's easy to forget how much time disappears into a project like that until you're forced to account for every single minute of it. Friends kept telling me the same thing. Stay organized, stay calm. Judges respond well to people who clearly respect the process and come prepared. So that's exactly what I did. I built a folder that told the entire story of that build. From the very first chit strip chassis to the finished product he was trying to sell out from under me. Underneath all that preparation, though, there was something heavier sitting in my chest. It wasn't just about the money anymore, even though the money mattered. It was the realization that someone I'd called my brother for 10 years could look me in the eye, or in this case, look at a phone screen, and decide a beach vacation was worth more than our friendship. That kind of betrayal doesn't just make you angry, it makes you question every memory you have with that person, wondering which parts were even real. I told myself I'd process that later. Right now, I had a case to build. 2 days after I sent that final warning text, everything came to a head. I woke up to 5 missed calls, not from Derek, from his father. For a second, my stomach dropped, thinking something terrible had happened. But when I called back, It wasn't that kind of emergency. His dad had seen the text thread. Whether Derek showed him out of guilt or his dad found it on his own, I still don't fully know. What I do know is that his father, a genuinely hardworking and honest man, was mortified by what his son had tried to pull. About an hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Derek. The arrogance from before was completely gone. No more legally it's my car. No more smug confidence that I had no leverage. He sounded small, defeated. He apologized, though it was obvious the apology had been pushed out of him rather than freely given. Still, he knew exactly how cornered he was. And for the first time since this whole mess started, he actually acted like it. He admitted that a straight 50-50 split probably wasn't even fair to me anymore, given how much more I'd put into the build financially. Instead of fighting me on it, instead of dragging this into an actual courtroom, he offered something different. An 80-20 split. In my favor. Enough to cover the turbo setup. Every part I'd funded, and the labor hours I'd documented down to the minute. We agreed to meet at a local bank the same day, before either of us could change our minds. I watched the teller count out the cash, verify it, and deposit it directly into my account. No more waiting, no more empty promises, just the number, finally, sitting where it belonged. His trip to Bali is apparently still happening, just on a noticeably tighter budget now that it isn't secretly funded by someone else's labor and parts. As we were walking out of the bank, he asked if we were good. I looked at him for a second, thought about 8 months of nights in that garage, thought about 10 years of friendship that had just evaporated over a $500 insult. And I told him the truth. We were even on the car, but the friendship was done. Then I turned around, walked to my own car, and blocked his number before I even got to the parking lot. It's a strange kind of grief. Losing a friendship like that, not because it ended, but because of how easily he was willing to end it. 10 years of history, and in the end, all it took to expose what our friendship was really worth to him was one vacation and one signature on a registration form. But here's what I keep coming back to. While someone I trusted completely was busy trying to cheat me out of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of work, it was a group of complete strangers who gave me the exact tools I needed to stand up for myself. No hidden agenda, no personal gain, just people willing to share what they knew because they didn't want to see someone get taken advantage of. I lost a friend I thought would be in my life forever, but I walked away with my money, my dignity, and a very clear understanding of who actually had my back when it counted. If you think they got what they deserved, subscribe.